right now, too. They're up 2 against the Rockets.
Bubble ball.
But he's also doing his thing here. Look at this poster.
Oh, man.
Oh, poor Wes.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yep. Future teammate.
He was
there.
also on this
exactly.
today. Ooh, reverse.
And this one against the Grizzlies.
That was clean. None of these have impressed Bobby Marks.
I thought the other
Then
one
the
on
other day.
Tuesday night. Listen, the Tuesday night was the best
There
one.
it is, Bobby.
There it is. Maybe if it was coming right at me. I was sitting right there, right in my living room.
So
I was
the
terrific.
Lakers should feel pretty good. They're up 2-0, as we mentioned. LeBron is a perfect 24-0 in a series when he leads 2-0. That's, of course, the most in NBA history. On the flip side, Kevin Durant, his teams are only 1-5 when going down 0-2. The Lakers have been throwing double teams at KD all series, and Jabari Smith says he needs to figure it out.
It's on him to find ways to get himself involved and get to his spots without excluding double team. Just because he getting double team, we still need him to, be KD. So, there's still ways around it, and we got some fixes to it, and we're gonna be better next 2 games.
2-0 is nothing. We've all kind of been there before. I know I have, and things flip quickly in a series, but stay aggressive and confident.
So Ime isn't worried, but Kevin Durant did have 9 turnovers in game 2. So Bobby, how do they turn this around?
Well, I think you just hit on it. During that stretch in March when they were really struggling, 7th most points off turnovers allowed. In these 3 games in the playoffs, 4th most points off turnovers allowed. So you got to value the possession of the basketball. The other thing is, I love Amen Thompson, but in these type of settings, he is one-dimensional. 70% of his points this season is in the paint. So when they're double teaming Durant, as they've been doing here, who else on this team can score if it's not Durant? We're probably going to see a dose of Reed Shepherd moving forward here. But I think the Thompson part of angle is something certainly to watch.
Speaking of Reed Shepherd, Chiney, he only played 11 minutes in game 2. What have you made of his play in this series, and what do we need to see here?
Kevin Durant needs help with people that can space the floor and shoot the ball. And Reed Shepherd is that guy. And it makes a difference when he's on the floor and when he's not. Here on this possession, he is not on the floor. And what does that lead to? The Lakers are able to, like sharks in the water, smelling blood. The Rockets are red. They see the blood, and they're going to attack. That is an unforced error. That is too casual with the basketball. 9 turnovers. Now we have Reed on the floor. Now, I know he's only shooting 25% in this series. It does not matter because historically you still have to guard him. The double team comes, but you have to still space the floor, and you can't send it constantly at KD. Reed is able to attract the defender. That allows Kevin Durant to get downhill and get to a spot. Now, he's so good that he's still going to get 2 hands contesting, but Reed Shepherd can at least take some pressure and bring the ball up off of Kevin Durant. I don't think it's just KD. Other people need to step up and take the pressure off of him because he's playing not 100%. He banged his knee, the patella. We're talking about rolling the ankle.
Right.
So he's not 100%, but he's dealing with 1,000% of the Lakers defenders.
Yeah, no question about that. All right, let's welcome in Dave McMiniman, who's in Houston for this one. Austin Reaves, upgraded to questionable, Dave, for the first time all playoffs. What can you tell us about his status tonight?
George, he's been out since April 2nd with a grade 2 left oblique strain. And at the time of that injury, the recovery timeline was 4 to 6 weeks. Today is 3 weeks and 1 day since the injury. He started his return to play progression earlier this week. On Tuesday, he was playing one-on-one. It's gone further since then. He's questionable. We'll see what happens as we approach game time. Now, keep this in mind. When he missed all of January with a calf strain, his first 5 games back were off the bench. That could be an option for J.J. Redick, the coaching staff tonight, especially considering just how well Luke Kennard's been playing. 25 points per game on 65% shooting thus far in the starting lineup so far in the series. So even if Austin can go, we'll have to see if there's a minute restriction or if they use him in a bit of a different role to ease him back in.
Good stuff, Dave. Thank you so much as always. Appreciate it. All right, Ramona. What do you make of the potential of Austin Reaves?
Well, I think if you're the Rockets here, like Austin Reaves coming back, I don't know how much he's going to play even if he does come back. But I think that you have to focus on yourselves. You just have to make shots. And when you're on the road and they shoot as poorly as they did, they're 14th out of the 16 teams in three-point shooting in this series. They're last in total field goal percentage. It's not that often that you can have 44 more field goal attempts taken and still be losing in the series, right? They're winning the rebounding. They're just not making shots. And I think you have to just count on your shooters to keep shooting and be better at home. Because as you say, young players oftentimes on the road don't shoot well. That's the play here. I mean, I know you got to get KD some help. It's just make shots.
Yeah, and the Rockets, unfortunately, have opened up a can of worms because I was saying you can't get Luka Doncic and Austin Reaves level production from Luke Kennard and Marcus Smart because now Austin Reaves come back and now you have a huge deal defensively. And this is one of the strongest defensive teams. They can't slow these guys down. It seems like they were caught a little bit off guard, not only from Kevin Durant, but also just they should know the schemes are coming. They should know that that offensively KD is going to be trying to taken out. How do you respond? I'm excited to see Houston's adjustment. It's been a minute since there was hope in the Toyota Center. Y'all, I know I've been there multiple times. The fans are ready. Courtside is sold out. Kevin Durant is here. You have to make the most of this.
So, she mentioned the adjustments for the Rockets. What about J.J. Redick and the adjustment to the adjustment and the anticipation?
Well, listen, if you get Austin Reaves back, you're going to have to tinker with your lineup a little bit right now. But I'm rolling out what I've been doing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's worked here.
Yeah.
Basically, Luke Kennard off screens, LeBron as the point of attack here. Your role players with Hachimura, DeAndre Ayton, Jackson Hayes here. I think
Marcus Smart.
Real quick with Houston, are we going to see a Dorian Finney-Smith sighting?
Ever? I mean, that was a big free
agent. Signed them for these moments here.
And we were so excited when we signed him. Get the most. Get the most out of them.
3D player.
Sorry, guys.
We'll see.
On the court. Gotta keep it cool.
See tonight.
We'll be all right.
All right, before we bounce, this Earth Month, the NBA is celebrating the legacy of Bill Walton, who many of us know was a champion for basketball and the environment. Bill was a strong supporter of the league's environmental sustainability efforts, having played an important role in multiple NBA Green campaigns over the years. And today, NBA Green is teaming up with the Arbor Day Foundation to plant 3 trees for every three-pointer made today. The first 32 trees will be planted in Bill Walton's honor. To learn more, visit NBAgreen.com. Still to come, we have the up-to-the-minute updates on Joel Embiid's status tonight ahead of Game 3 versus the Celtics. Are the Celtics in trouble if he returns? We discuss next.
He thinks Bron plays another 5 years in the league to get to 25 years. We've never seen this impact before. But do we think anybody ever touches any of LeBron's records at this point?
No. I don't. It's crazy to think about this. So I retired in 2011. When I went to Washington in 2005, LeBron James and the Cleveland Cavaliers beat us 3 years in a row, 2005, 2006, 2007. We're in 2026, and he's still doing it at this level.
That's crazy.
That is crazy to even think about. And here's the thing. We've had guys that played a long time. I feel like today's culture, basketball culture, they underrate longevity. It is not an easy thing to do. I know after 12 years, I was blessed to play 13 years. After 12 years, my body was done. My body was done. My mind was done. Look, I can't do this anymore. For LeBron James to be doing what he's doing now at this level and not have to recreate himself like we've seen other guys do in the past that have played 18, 19, 20 years, it is amazing. Yeah. It is amazing to watch.
I guess the counter to that would be it's easier to play longer now because of the load management and the physicality and stuff. But like it still doesn't. Not for somebody. I'm just saying I am not agreeing with that. I'm just saying that is what the counter would be. How it's softer now. There's load management. Guys don't play as many games.
But then Chandler, you got to go back.
Yeah, he's played in all eras, so it shouldn't matter for him.
LeBron James didn't start in 2025. He didn't start in 2019 when the load management started. You know what I mean? We got to go all the way back to what? 2000 and what was it? 4?
Yeah.
We did load management start.
That's when Pop started it all.
We did load management start.
Well, load management started here in San Antonio.
100%.
Kevin Durant has a sprained left ankle, a new one, default leg from the knee, same series, same 0-2 deficit, same team that has not won a playoff game since May 2023. And tonight, in front of the Toyota Center crowd that was supposed to be the turning point, Austin Reaves is questionable to play, and Tim Bontemps already told you the answer. He is going to be on that floor tonight, so let us get this straight. The Lakers are going into Houston on the road as 9.5-point underdogs, with their second-best healthy player potentially returning from injury, while the Rockets' franchise player is now managing 2 separate injuries on 2 different legs in a game where falling to 0-3 means the series is mathematically and historically finished. JJ Redick told Luke Kennard to shoot more, specifically said 6 or 7 threes at 38% is better than 3 at 45%. And Kennard responded by going 17 of 26 from the field and 8 of 11 from 3 while averaging 25 points per game and making a spin move on Reed Shepherd into a step-back 3 that the entire arena knew was going in before it left his hand. Marcus Smart said he could have been out of the league. LeBron is 24-0 when his teams go up 2-0. The trade that sent Gabe Vincent away and brought Kennard to Los Angeles, which everyone ignored at the deadline, is now the most important personnel decision the Lakers made all season. Jake LaRavia is off the injury report. The Rockets bench scored essentially nothing in Game 2. And Jalen Duran's $200 million contract situation is already being discussed as the Lakers' most important offseason decision while LeBron is still playing playoff basketball. Tonight in Houston, Reaves possibly back, Durant possibly out. Nobody in that building is ready for what is about to happen. You are watching something that people will be talking about for years, and the only way you are going to be first to understand it is if you are subscribed to this channel right now. Hit that button. These breakdowns go up the second the buzzer sounds, and you genuinely do not want to be finding out what happened from someone else's reaction video tomorrow morning. So let us begin talking firstly about the single most absurd injury situation in this entire playoff bracket, because Kevin Durant, the man who played 78 regular season games this year and was supposed to be the dominant force that made this series a mismatch, has now managed to sustain 2 separate injuries in 2 different extremities in the span of 4 days, while watching his team lose 2 consecutive playoff games to a depleted Lakers roster that 11 of 12 ESPN analysts expected to be eliminated before Mother's Day. Durant missed Game 1 with a right knee contusion suffered in practice, a practice injury before a playoff game against a team missing its 2 leading scorers, which should have been the lowest stakes competitive environment available in the entire postseason. He returned for Game 2, scored 20 points in the first half, and then scored 3 points in the entire second half as the Lakers threw a defensive scheme at him that produced 4 turnovers in the fourth quarter alone and a career playoff high 9 turnovers for the game. And now he has a left ankle sprain, a new injury, different leg, different joint, completely separate from the knee, listed as questionable for Game 3 in Houston tonight. The specific question that this sequence of events raises, and that nobody in the mainstream media is asking with the directness it deserves, is whether Kevin Durant, at 37 years old, having played 2,140 regular season minutes in a contract year with Houston, arrived at these playoffs with a body that was already operating closer to its physical limits than the organizational communication from the Rockets ever publicly acknowledged. Durant has been one of the most durable players in the NBA this season. The 78 games played are a testament to extraordinary physical conditioning and professional commitment. But the specific pattern of a practice knee contusion followed by a game ankle sprain in the space of a single series, both requiring official injury designations, suggests that the accumulated physical load of a full professional season for a 37-year-old athlete is expressing itself in ways that the playoff intensity is accelerating, rather than the individual incidents creating an isolation. The Rockets' organizational nightmare is not just that Durant is hurt, it is that the specific version of Durant available tonight against a potentially returning Reaves and a fully prepared Lakers defensive scheme is going to look meaningfully different from the player who averaged 26 points on 52% shooting during the regular season, and that the difference between that version of Durant and the version managing both a knee and an ankle in a game his team must win to avoid 0-3 is the specific competitive gap that the Lakers have been waiting to exploit since Game 3 was scheduled. No team in NBA history has ever come back from 0-3 in the playoffs. Not one. The Rockets are one game away from entering territory that has never been survived. And their franchise player is on the injury report with both legs. I believe Durant plays tonight. His competitive pride will not allow him to sit. And I believe the specific version of Durant available on two compromised legs in a must-win environment is going to produce the specific competitive performance that makes J.J. Redick look like the most prepared coach in the entire postseason by the time the final buzzer sounds. The Austin Reaves return is the organizational development that the Lakers have been building every tactical decision around since April 2nd, and the specific timing of his return in Game 3 in Houston rather than Games 5, 6, or 7 in a series that might not have reached those games is the competitive gift that the specific organizational character of this team earned by winning 2 consecutive games without any of the stars the pre-series narrative said were required to compete. Tim Bontemps did not say questionable. Tim Bontemps said Austin Reaves is going to play tonight, barring some setback, and there is a meaningful difference between an injury report designation and a well-sourced ESPN reporter putting his credibility on a specific outcome before it has been officially confirmed. Bontemps has organizational access. He knows what the medical staff is communicating internally. The upgrade to questionable, combined with Bontemps' specific language, is the most direct available signal that Reaves not only took the floor in practice this week, but did so at a level that convinced the medical staff and the coaching staff that the risk of a Game 3 appearance is acceptable relative to the competitive upside of having him available. The specific tactical implications of Reaves returning tonight are the ones that should be making Ime Udoka's preparation session for Game 3 feel significantly more complicated than it already was before the injury report dropped. Houston has spent 3 weeks specifically preparing for the version of the Lakers that plays without Doncic and Reaves, building defensive assignments around LeBron as the primary creation source, schematizing coverage for Kennard as the primary shooting threat, designing rotations that account for Smart's driving angles and passing tendencies. None of that preparation directly addresses what Reaves does as an offensive creator: the pull-up shooting at the elbow, the mid-range decision-making off the pick and roll, the secondary creation that opens every other action the offense runs. Windhorst raised the genuine tactical concern about whether Redick faces a difficult lineup decision, whether Kennard, who is playing the best basketball of his career with the starting unit's offensive freedom, should come off the bench when Reaves returns. And Bontemps' immediate response was that the decision is not complicated. Start Reaves, play Kennard plenty. The Lakers are better for it. The specific question of whether Kennard's extraordinary shooting rhythm survives a transition to a bench role is the one that the pre-Reaves injury period of the regular season never definitively answered, because Kennard spent most of that time as a bench piece rather than a starter. What the regular season did establish is that Kennard spent his entire professional career developing the specific skill of staying ready without established rhythm. The catch-and-shoot specialist who can come off the bench cold and immediately convert the first look he receives without requiring the extended on-ball activity that most players need to find their offensive timing. Thinking about it carefully, Reaves returning for Game 3 is the competitive development that transforms this series from a Lakers survival exercise into a genuine basketball referendum on which organization has better prepared for the specific circumstances it is now facing. And the answer to that question has been provided emphatically in Games 1 and 2 without Reaves, which makes the version of this team that includes him starting tonight one of the most dangerous competitive propositions available in the entire 2026 playoff bracket. The Luke Kennard story is the one that reveals the most about how organizational decisions at the trade deadline compound across playoff rounds in ways that cannot be fully appreciated until the specific competitive context makes them visible. And the specific visibility that Games 1 and 2 have provided is so complete that the people who dismissed the Gabe Vincent trade as a minor deadline transaction are now watching Kennard receive MVP chants and make spin moves on Reed Shepherd and step back for threes that the entire arena knows are going in before they leave his hand. Kennard was told to shoot more, not encouraged, told. JJ Redick said directly to his player and to the media that 6 or 7 threes per game at 38% is better than 3 per game at 45%, which is the specific coaching communication that separates organizational leaders who understand what their players need to hear from organizational leaders who manage the optics of their system at the expense of the competitive output it could produce. Kennard has averaged 7.3 shot attempts per game throughout his entire career. He averaged 6.3 field goal attempts per game in a Lakers uniform during the regular season. He took 13 shots in each of the first 2 games of this series and made 17 of those 26 attempts, while going 8 of 11 from three-point range. The spin move on Shepherd is the specific play that captures the psychological transformation most completely. A player who spent his entire career being described as a catch-and-shoot specialist, who was told by every organization that employed him before Los Angeles that his role was to receive the ball rather than create for himself, decided in the middle of a playoff game to put the ball on the floor, use a spin move to create separation against a smaller defender, and step back for a three-pointer with the confidence of someone who had never once in his professional life doubted his ability to make that exact shot. That is not a role player expanding his game under playoff pressure. That is a player finally being given the organizational permission to do what he has always been capable of and responding to that permission with the competitive output that the permission authorized. Greenlight Kennard is not a new player. It is the same player the Lakers acquired in February, finally operating in an environment where the organizational message and the competitive circumstances aligned to unlock what was always there. I believe Kennard finishes this series as one of the most important trade deadline acquisitions in recent Lakers history, and that the specific organizational intelligence required to see his potential in February, execute the acquisition for essentially nothing, and then create the specific competitive and psychological environment where the potential was released under playoff pressure is the most underappreciated front office achievement of this entire season. The Marcus Smart gratitude that arrived after Game 2 is the specific human detail that the basketball conversation absorbed without fully sitting with. And the reason it deserves deeper engagement than the post-game quote cycle typically provides is that Smart's specific biographical journey to this moment is the most improbable individual story available in the 2026 Lakers playoff narrative. Smart was traded from Boston in 2023, the team that drafted him, the team he spent 9 seasons building his identity around, the team whose jersey he wore when he won Defensive Player of the Year, sent away to acquire Kristaps Porzingis in a transaction that the Celtics justified by winning a championship, and that Smart has publicly acknowledged he never fully processed emotionally. He went to Memphis. Memphis was not the Celtics. He went to Washington. Washington was not Memphis. He got injured. He cleared waivers. He signed a buyout deal with the Los Angeles Lakers, the Celtics' most historic rival, for a minimum salary that communicated precisely how the market valued his services at that specific moment in his career. He missed 3 weeks of the regular season with the ankle injury that had been following him since the Memphis stint. And then Doncic tore his hamstring, and Reaves strained his oblique, and J.J. Redick looked at his roster and built a playoff game plan around Marcus Smart as one of its primary contributors. And Smart responded by going 8 for 13 from the field, with 5 3-pointers and 7 assists and 5 steals in Game 2, his most points in a playoff game since 2020, against Kevin Durant. While LeBron James told reporters afterward that having someone like that brings composure to the entire team, Smart said he thanks God every day. He said he could have been out of the league due to injuries and things like that. The specific emotional register of those words, delivered not in the triumphant voice of a player who expected this moment, but in the genuine voice of someone who understands completely how different this story could have been, is the competitive and human foundation that makes every possession Smart produces in this series feel earned rather than expected. I believe Smart's performance in this series is the single most emotionally resonant individual story of the entire 2026 playoffs, regardless of how the series ends. And that the specific journey from Boston trade to Memphis to Washington to Lakers minimum deal to playoff hero is the version of the basketball life that makes every other storyline in this series feel smaller by comparison. The Jalen Duren conversation arriving while LeBron is still playing playoff basketball is the organizational reality check that reveals how completely the front office has already begun processing the summer that follows this run. And the specific urgency of the Duren discussion is rooted in something more concrete than abstract roster planning. Durant is 22 years old. He has played 68.75 games per season across 4 NBA campaigns, a durability number that makes the DeAndre Ayton and Robert Williams III comparison conversations feel almost offensive in their inadequacy. A 22-year-old center who plays 68 games per season, who protects the rim and finishes above it, who has not yet reached his developmental ceiling, is the specific organizational asset that a franchise in the Doncic prime window cannot afford to miss if the opportunity materializes. The Bleacher Report projection of a 5-year, $200 million deal from Detroit is the organizational reality that Pelinka needs to engage with honestly. Because $200 million sounds like an enormous number until you compare it to the specific competitive cost of spending another season with DeAndre Ayton's inconsistency as the primary interior answer in a system that requires a reliable lob threat and rim protector to function at its ceiling. Robert Williams III is the trap. One healthy season at under 20 minutes per game, preceded by 17-game, 31-game, and similarly abbreviated campaigns presenting as the athletic and versatile solution while carrying the specific injury risk that the Lakers cannot absorb after the Ayton experience demonstrated what happens when a center's organizational commitment is conditional on remaining healthy. The article is correct that the Lakers have just 6 players on guaranteed deals heading into the summer, which means the specific financial flexibility available to pursue Duren through a sign-and-trade scenario with Detroit is real rather than theoretical, and that the organizational conversations that Pelinka is having right now about the summer's priorities are happening against the backdrop of this playoff run, providing the most efficient possible demonstration of what this team needs from the 5 position that no offseason projection model could have replicated. Thinking about it carefully, the Durant acquisition at $200 million is not the financially comfortable decision. It is the organizationally correct one for a franchise whose window with a 27-year-old Doncic demands the kind of long-term center commitment that cannot be replaced annually with the next best available option on a minimum deal.